Hi everyone, today we are also going to do a reading analysis in terms of Cambridge 7, IELTS 7, reading passage 3. The topic is educating psyche. This topic is about a book which was written by Bernie Neville. Uh, this reading consists of three types of questions. The first type is multiple choice questions, as you see here, multiple choice one, and the next one is true, false, and G. The last one is about summary completion, and in the summary completion, we will be given a couple of words in tables that we have to figure out the correct answer. Let's do it just one by one from 27th, okay? All right, as usual, we have to make sure the synonyms, the keywords, of course. And today I'm going to teach you one of the key factor in order to achieve a good IELTS score, especially in terms of reading. This one is called learning definitions all the time. So what does it mean, learning definitions? I will describe you, I will tell you. So, all right, so just the first one, the book Educating Psyche is mainly concerned with. So this is the keyword, mainly. So mainly means especially, right? If you know its definition, this would be perfect. So mainly, so sorry, let's make it simple. So concerned means about, right? This book is going to tell us about something, and especially something, right? So the power of suggestion, that's the keyword. Particular technique, it means specific technique, the exact technique of something based on emotions. So it should be emotion, right? And the effects of emotion on the imagination and unconscious. And the last one is ways of learning which are not traditional. Not traditional, that's the keyword. So let's try to figure out the correct answer by looking at the reading at the same time. So the word educating psyche has been written in italics, which means this is the location, I think. So Educating Psyche by Bernie Lavelle is a book which look at radical new approach to learning and blah blah blah. So this is a book, right? Which looks at here means describes, explains, right? And looks at here is a synonym to the word concerned, the mainly, radical. So that's the keyword. So it's going to talk about a radical approach. Radical. So let's figure out what does it mean. Radical. Okay. Radical here means believing or expressing the belief there should be a great or extreme social or political change. All right. Radical here means change, and great change, maybe, right? The great change, or let's take a look one more time. Supporting change, extremely important, right? So let's write supporting change. Supporting change. Radical here means supporting change, right? So it's talking about a supporting change, a big change, about new approach to learning. So it's going to describe, not to talk about the traditional learning, but a new approach, a radically new approach, which means totally different, right? And looks at means mainly concerned. And here we could somehow just think that it could describe effects of emotion, imagination, and unconscious of learning, but here it's telling us it's a book which looks at radical new approach of learning, and that's why this can be an exact explanation and evidence for the keyword that here the ways of learning, right? Approaches. Here you see approaches has been written in plural, right? In plural, which means many approaches. Here ways of learning. Approach means method. Approach means ways of learning, right? And here it's not traditional, which means it's radical, right? Let's write it down. Radical, radical new, right? That's the keyword, radical new. And in this case, the answer, the correct answer should be this, right? So let's make like this. This is the correct answer. So, and the next one. Lozanov's theory claims that when we try to remember things, so it's about the theory of Lozanov's that has been claimed by him, right? All right. Okay. Unimportant details are the easiest. So unimportant, that's the keyword. Unimportant details are the easiest, so they are really easy. Concentrating hard procedures, the best results. So hard procedures. And the most significant facts are the most easily recalled, and peripheral vision is not important, right? Uh, all right, let's take a peek here, okay? Lozanov's instructional technique is based on the evidence that connects made in the brain, right? It's talking about some sort of theory here, right? Unconscious procedure, and besides the laboratory evidence for this, we often remember. Yeah, hear the word remember. Hear the word remember, right? We often remember that what we have perceived peripherally. That's the word that we need to know the definition. Peripheral, right? So that's the maybe word of the day, let's say, right? Because really important and really advanced word, peripheral. So what does it mean, peripheral? All right. Peripheral means describe something that is not as important as something else, which means unimportant, right? Peripheral means unimportant. And so, besides the laboratory evidence for this, we know from our experience that we often remember what we perceive it. Perceive it means here get, receive it, right? What we got peripherally, right? Peripherally means not important, unimportant things, so they are easy to remember, right? And long after we've forgotten, something like this. So this sentence could be or are the. So let's write it down 28, and here let's write it down 27, because it shows the location of the question, okay? 20, 27, 28, and that's not. So peripherally and unimportant. So as long as you take a look at the definition of peripheral, right? It says peripheral describes something that is not as important as something else. Not important, right? And as long as we are fully aware of the definitions, wherever we or whenever we are doing reading sections or passages, or we are busy with engaging in articles, maybe, let's say, right? knowing definitions could help us to understand the topic, to understand the questions, what is happening inside of the topic. Yeah, that would be really, really super easy. And in terms of doing the reading sections, right, the locations like this, or in order to, how to say, in order to match the question with the passages would be maybe far more easier, right? Far easier it would be. So unimportant means peripheral, right? Peripheral. So peripheral means unimportant, and that's the reason why the answer is, sorry, the answer is this, A. So the next one. In this passage, the author uses the examples of the book and a lecture to illustrate that. So it's given examples of the book and lecture at the same time in order to illustrate something that both of these are important for developing concentration. So both of them are important to develop concentrations, right? And his theory about method of learning is valid, which means valid means agreeable, perfect, and true, right? The definition would be true. Reading is better technique for learning than listening, right? So, and it's kind of comparison between techniques of learning rather than listening, maybe. So let's see. And we can remember things more easily than hypnosis. So that's also a more easily, right? That's also a comparison, right? So let's see what it's talking about. So long after we've forgotten that we set out to learn, so if we think of book, right, we are on the same route, on the same location, I mean exact location, right? If we think of a book here, examples of a book and lecture we studied months ago, we will find it easier to recall peripheral details like color or binding or typeface or the table at the library where we sat while studying than the content on which we are concentrating. So here it says it's giving us the information that if we read about a book, right, we'll find it easier to recall peripheral details. For example, maybe we are just sitting in the library, just reading something, just accidentally we can figure out the color of the walls, maybe the physical appearance of the librarians, maybe, or friends, what are they talking, what were they talking about maybe at that time. Maybe those peripheral details, those unimportant details may have got your attention, right? According to this. And let's read lecture. Yeah, here we got the word lecture. If we think of a lecture, we listen it to with great concentration, we will recall lecture's appearance, right? That's the yeah, really peripheral, really unimportant, because instead of just getting concentration, we can recall lecture's appearance, mannerism, like, yeah, status, maybe our place in the auditorium, the failure of the air conditioning more easily. Yeah, of course. Here it says, so we could recall more easily compared to the subject itself. And I think here the answer lies here, right? All right, let's write it down, 29, and let's just decide which one could be the actual correct answer. So it's book and lecture, so they are not important, right? They are not important. Just what is important is that peripheral details are important, right? So this is the wrong answer. His theory about method of learning is valid, and it's not better, it's not comparing anything. There is no even the word hypnosis here, right? Hypnosis, maybe there could be here, but it's not talking about this. And here the answer could be the answer could be B, right? Because method of learning is valid. So what kind of method? This is the method of the peripheral method, right? We could get peripheral things peripherally, like we could get the details, especially unimportant details, right? That's why this answer should be correct one. I'm sorry, what is happening here? The last one. Lozanov claims that teachers should train students to do something. So he's claiming teachers should train, right? Maybe he's giving some suggestions because, modal verbs can carry some sort of extra explanations, extra translations, and here should can give us information about some sort of suggestions, right? So memorize details of curriculum, so we should memorize, right? Teachers should memorize the details of curriculum. Details of curriculum and details of the subject. Here, curriculum can be a synonym to subject, right? And develop their own sets of indirect instructions. So they should develop their own one and think about something other than. So they should think about something other than curriculum content. Curriculum means here subject. So curriculum content means subject content that can be found on your copybook, right? Or sorry, book. Just in the beginning of the book, you can figure out the contents, right? And avoid overloading the capacity. So overloading means somehow that you should read a lot of time over and over, and that could be somehow a lot of information just into our brain. That can be overloading. So what we should do, we can learn here, okay? The phenomenon can be partly attributed to counterproductive approach to study also superficial functions. All right, instruction, that's the keyword here. Instruction, suggestion, you see? Uh, and as I told you, I know if so. So as long as we have a good grammar, just doing some sort of readings, right? We could somehow recognize the benefits of grammar here, because should here means suggestion, right? And that's why here the word suggestion or instruction here also means suggestion, right? And I can say that I have found the location, exact location of the answer here, right? So the Lozanov therefore made suggestion means claims suggestion, right? Central to his teaching system. In Suggestipedia, so Suggestipedia looks like, just sounds like encyclopedia or Wikipedia, right? As he called his method. So Suggestipedia is his method. Consciousness is shifted away from the curriculum to focus on something peripheral. The curriculum then becomes peripheral and is dealt with by the reserve capacity of the brain, and then Suggestipedic approach to foreign learning provides a good illustration. In its most recent variant, consider reading vocabulary. Daniel Cousin was the first one. So, right, let's just read here, okay? So Lozanov therefore made indirect instruction central to his teaching system. He called his method is shifted away from curriculum to focus on something peripheral. Yeah, I think we have captured the answer, right? So shift away means we should take our attention to the other one, right? So it's sad students that they should shift away from curriculum to concentrate on something unimportant, right? So that's why the answer should be this one, because students or they should think about something other than the curriculum content. Here you see something other than curriculum means they should stay away curriculum to focus on something, right? Something peripheral. Here, some maybe playing with the words, right? All right, we could write here like 30 because we have figured out the location of the answer, right? And let's talk about true false not given. All right, in the example of suggestive teaching, as long as you have recognized that we have just figure out that the word suggestive, right? That was a new approach of new vocabulary in here, right? So in the example of suggestive teaching in the fourth paragraph, wow, that's totally just direct help for us because it's telling that the answer is situated in the first paragraph, right? The only variable that changes is the music. So let's count the number of paragraphs. This is one, the first paragraph, and second paragraph, third paragraph, and fourth paragraph. So, right. So I think the answer lies here, right? So music, that's the word that we have to just stick to, right? The music. So let's see, music. Yeah, we have found music. So it consists of the reading of vocabulary and text while the class is listening to music. So the first session is in two parts. In the first part, the music is classical and the teacher reads text slowly, right? Solemnly, and with the attention to the dynamics of the music, right? Dynamics means change of music. And the students follow the text in their books. This is followed by several minutes of silence. In the second part, you see, it's about another part. They listen to Baroque music like Bach, Corelli, Handel, while the teacher reads the text in a normal speaking, which means teachers has also changed the tone of speaking, right? During this time, they have their books closed. And this time, students just condition has been changed, right? Because they have their books closed, which means the teacher said that students should close their books. And here, the teacher reads the teacher reads the teacher reads the text and students should follow the text, right? Let's say follow, right? Follow the teacher. So at the time of the teacher reading the text, so simultaneously students were following the text, and in the next part read teachers were or teacher, right, it was singular, right? Teacher was reading the text in a normal speaking voice, but in this time simultaneously the students weren't having a look at the books, right? Because their books had been closed. So here it says the only variable that changes is the music. That's the keyword, variable change, right? But according to the test, so variables are music and the action of teachers and action of students at the same time, which means false, right? And that's why the answer should be false. And let's write it down 31 here. And the next one, prior to Suggestipedia class, let's say prior to. So what does it mean prior to? Prior to means previously, right? Previously, Suggestipedia class students are made aware that language experience will be demanding. So prior to means before something had happened before. Students are made aware of that, but right now it's not happening, which means, right? And beforehand, that's the keyword to prior to. Beforehand means prior to, right? You see, as let's take a look at prior to, okay? prior to. You see, earlier, earlier, triple times, right? Prior, before a particular time or event. And this is something that I want to explain to you guys. Every time, try to stick to the definition. Every time, you should recognize, maybe revise, maybe work on your definition skills. I mean, just in terms of using vocabulary, I mean, right? Because most of the students who are learning English language as a second language, they prefer to stay with their bilingual dictionary, like Uzbek Russian, Uzbek English. But here I'm referring to monolingual dictionary, right? Monolingual dictionary is about the English dictionary, which means you can figure out the definition of this word and the usage of this word. Because, for example, in your bilingual in your bilingual dictionaries, the for example, the translation of the words could be somehow similar with each other, and maybe you don't know about how to use how to use the words. Maybe in what case you have to use, or in what case you should use the words. But just with the help of the just having a skill at the using monolingual dictionary, maybe you are just super able to be able two times, right? You are just brilliant at using the words, the word choice, and of course reading, right? This is the key word. We have to work on our reading, and in order to improve reading, we always stick to the monolingual definition, which means English dictionary, right? Especially Cambridge dictionary, or Oxford dictionary, Collins dictionary, right? So let's get to the business, all right, guys. Just by identifying the word beforehand here, prior to, we could locate the answer. And let's read. Students are made aware that language experience will be demanding. So language experience will be demanding in the future. So students had such imagination before. And so students have been carefully prepared for the language learning experience. So carefully prepared, right? Through meeting with the staff, satisfied students, they develop expectations that learning will be easier, right? Pleasant that they will successfully learn. Here it's written like learning will be easy. And here it's written demanding. The definition of demanding is difficult, right? Sorry, difficult. Demanding means difficult. And here it says will be easy, you see? And of course, we should pay attention to the tense, right? The tense is in future. And here is also will be demanding. So we could say this as false. Why? Because it's telling the opposite, right? It's telling the opposite thing. So let's write it down 32 here. And the next one, in the follow-up class, that's the word that we could use as a locator here, right? So that's our GPS. So follow up, because this has something that can be identified easily just among a lot of words here, right? That's why there is a follow-up class student. So let's read. Teaching activities are similar. So teaching activities are similar to those used in conventional classes. Conventional classes means traditional classes, right? The classes that we had in the past. It's not new, right? So conventional means past. So let's try to figure out the answer. Students are stimulated to recall, so they are recalling the material presented, Once again, the approach is indirect. The students do not focus their attention on trying to remember the vocabulary, but focus on using the language to communicate. Such methods are not unusual, so they are not unusual, which means traditional, right? Which means conventional. So, which also means true, because it's similar, right? So let's highlight this with a yellow one, okay? So it's true. So we could use like this, follow up like this, okay? So it's 33 here, we could write. And as an indirect benefit, students notice improvements in their memory. So it's like, it's kind of indirect. It's not direct, it's indirect, that they don't know about it, right? And indirect means also unimportant, that just secondary, right? Indirect benefit here means secondary benefit. It's not primary benefit. Students notice improvements. So they notice, they know that they had maybe they had improvements in their memory, in their brain, in their just the system of their memory, right? So what is distinctive is that suggestopedic method is that they are devoted entirely to assisting recall. This could be somehow the location, right? Recalling here memory. Recalling and memory could be somehow a synonym here. The learning of the material is assumed to be automatic and effortless, accomplished while listening to music. Teacher's task is to assist the students to apply what they have learned. Something. So did they notice here? Did students notice? So they applied something, but there is no such word. So students can regularly learn. So they can learn something. Student, there is a word student here. There's a student here as well. But as you see, it's super, maybe it's impossible to figure out any improvements in their memory that they have noticed. There is no such notice here. They never recognize this, which means, so let's write it down, 34, which means NG, right? The next one, teachers say that they prefer. So they prefer Suggestopedia to traditional. So they are preferring Suggestopedia to traditional one, to traditional approach to learning, to language teaching, sorry. So Lozano experiment with teaching by direct suggestion during sleep, hypnosis and trance states, but found such procedures found unnecessary. Hypnosis, yoga, silver mind controllers, ceremonies, and faith healing are all associated with successful suggestion and dictation is essential. Such rituals may be suggestions. Really? So where is the word teacher? Where is the word prefer? There's no any prefer here. Or just maybe we could read this reading maybe several times, maybe 10 times, but it's impossible to figure out any meaning that which means it's also not here, right? Because there is no word here. There is no any sentence that could be translated, maybe that could be understood, that teachers could say they preferred Suggestopedia traditional. There is no such information here. So the next one. So students in Suggestopedia class retain more vocabulary. So they retain more vocabulary. So what does it mean? Which means they learn, right? They learn new vocabulary than in ordinary classes. I think I could say the word hundred, sorry, thousand. That was the key word, right? So another difference, that's the difference, right? From conventional teaching, right? So it's talking about there is a huge difference between conventional teaching and in suggested classes, that evidence that students can regularly learn. So that's not the word that could be translated, right? 1,000 new words of a foreign language during a suggested session. During a suggested session means in a suggested class. Session means class here, right? So let's write it down. Session, right? And just guys, try to write or try to identify as many synonyms as you can, just in the question and in the text, just parallel, okay? Suggested class session, suggested session, right? Retain more vocabulary. So learn here, right? This is the synonym of retain here. Learn more vocabulary. So compared to ordinary classes here, conventional teaching, right? Conventional means or ordinary, right? Conventional. So that's the keyword. And I think this is true. Why? Because the fact that had been given here in the question and given in the text, just they are telling the same thing, the same information, right? So let's write it down here. 36. All right. This is the last topic that it's about. Sorry. So this is the last topic about the type of question about summary, right? Summary compilation, that we had been given a bunch of words in here that we have to figure out the meaning, the synonym, the meaning or definition in the text. Which means, for example, if we could write teaching here in 37, the word teaching just has been given in another form of its synonym, right? And that's why this kind of questions like summary compilation just can test our just vocabulary and grammar skills at the same time, right? So let's try to figure out the locations, because as long as we know where the words, its situation, right, it could be really easier. So suggested uses a less direct method of suggestion than other techniques as hypnosis. That's the keyword, hypnosis. Here we have hypnosis. All right. However, Lozanov, right? Lozanov admits that. So we have the word Lozanov here. Lozanov acknowledges that, right? So Lozanov acknowledges that, admits that. You see, they are just twin here, right? Lozanov acknowledge, Lozanov admits. They are twins because they are the same words. Maybe the metaphor twin couldn't be maybe appropriate here. Sorry. So certain amount of something, which means we need a noun, right, is necessary. So it's really necessary for us. Okay. That ritual surrounding suggestions in his own system is also a placebo, but maintains that without such a placebo, people are unable to afraid to tap the reserve capacity of their brains. So which word we should write here? So a certain amount of something necessary in order to convince students, in order to make students believe, right? So maybe such rituals. So such rituals may be seen as placebos. Lozanov acknowledges that rituals surrounding suggestion in his own system is also a placebo, but maintains that without such a placebo, people are unable to afraid. So, what is placebo? So, let's figure out the definition. Placebo is something that alternative, right? The definition could be alternative. So, none of techniques seem to be essential of it. So, Lozanov admits that, Lozanov knows that, Lozanov acknowledges that certain amount of ritual, right? This is the word that we are looking for. Ritual is necessary in order to convince students, just even if this is just a placebo, right? Why? Because here you can say this system is also a placebo, but without such placebo, which means even this is just a placebo, right? So, placebo. Furthermore, if the method is to succeed, teachers must follow a set procedure. Although, that's the word. Although. So teachers, this is the word teachers, which means we have a GPS here, right? Lozanov's method have become quite something. We need an adjective. Spectacular could be adjective. Unspectacular is also adjective. Appropriate, well-known, unpopular, right? Involved could be adjective or especially verb, maybe V3, right? Past participle. Oh, right. While suggestibility has gained some notoriety, right? Yeah. While means although. So while means although, right? Which means although Suggestipedia has gained some notoriety. Notoriety means a popularity, but in a bad way, right? So do we have well known this word? So the answer would be or should be well known, right? The result of the most other teachers using this method have been so. Few teachers are able to emulate the spectacular. That's the adjective that we have used here. Because there is no other adjective here, right? So let's just write the locations. 37 and 38. Here 39. And the last one is here. So let's just take a look at one more time, but with a great attention here, right? Few teachers are able to emulate that it's spectacular results, which means it's not spectacular because few teachers are talking about it. Because here most of the other teachers using this method have been unspectacular, right? Unspectacular. So let's write it down, the letters of this. Okay, so ritual, where's the word ritual? F. So the answer should be F. And in the exam, just we should write the letters in capitals right here. F. 37 is F, 38 is H, and 39 is K, and the last one is G, right? And as you see, we have just finished the reading analysis of the Cambridge IELTS 7. It's test 1. So I have forgotten to write test 1, and it's about reading passage 3. And every time, just guys, try to be super sure, right? You have your dictionary, like the monolingual dictionary with yourself, because just doing reading just requires a lot of efforts, just a great vocabulary. That's why always you should try to I mean try to use your vocabulary skill in order to locate the just location of the synonyms, location of the words, because reading requires a lot of time, but here we have only 20 minutes, and that's why we have really short time, really short time. That's why, just guys, try to be sure that just you have a great experience with working with vocabulary, especially the definitions, right? And just, there is a word which is called an apple a day the keeps the doctor away. And I can say my own version: an article a day keeps the challenges away from your reading. And that's why, that's my suggestion, guys. So see you next time.